22nd Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies here at TWHS. I would like to first of all thank a couple people that allow me to do this every year. Mr. Dustin Dick, our principal, who's back in the back, Mr. Colin Cathy, who's our associate principal, and Dr. Tiffany Anderson, who's here with us tonight, our superintendent. We're glad she's here to join in these festivities. As usual, this job is one of my loves. I love doing this job every year. When I call the candidates in May, the reactions I get, and then tonight is just a work of love for me. I can't enjoy, and seeing all these people back, it just warms my heart every year, and I enjoy doing this, and I will continue doing this as long as I can. I really enjoy this. Again, welcome. I will turn this over to this guy in this chair over here, who, my MC comes up to me at 6:30 and goes, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this tonight. He has a little bit of the back spasm going on, so he's going to try and stride through it like he always does. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Joe Schrog.
You might like to know that if I go down, Tracy Snacker is in the wings. So. A lot of times when the starter doesn't get it done, they cheer for the backup, and that would probably be best for all of you, but I'm going to struggle through anyway. Before we commence, I would like to express a special thanks to Dustin Dick and Colin Cathy for providing administrative support to tonight's festivities. Also to Mike Boyer for providing us with a program, to Jennifer Miller for her video record of these proceedings, to Athletic Director Rich Mariani, who bears the workload for this production, to John Ostrich for his oversight of the selection committee, and for all the members of the selection committee. Would those who are members of the selection committee please stand? Okay, very good, very good. For those of you who have already been inducted into the Hall of Fame, please stand. East lot starting at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon after an assembly in the main gym at 2 p.m. Those inductees who can stay around for tomorrow night's game, bring your raincoat, will be introduced at the halftime. Please meet at the north end of the West Straightaway about 4 minutes before the end of the first half. Also, weather permitting, the TWHS Alumni Association and Foundation will be having a tailgate in the West lot prior to the game. Good evening to you all tonight, and welcome to the 22nd Annual TWHS Sports Hall of Fame induction. My name is Joe Schrog, and it is my distinct honor and pleasure to be your moderator for tonight's festivities. There's no place, like Rich said, that I would rather be than at TWHS on Hall of Fame night. As usual, we have marvelous inductees to hear from and about, and I can't wait to get started. Our first inductee is in the category of special awards. This award is presented to an individual who has made significant contributions to TWHS sports, even though he or she was not an alumnus or on staff. Virtually every year, at least one and sometimes more inductees mention the impact that Nick DeMar has had on their lives, thereby making him a worthy recipient of this special award. Here to introduce him is a TWHS alumnus and colleague of Nick's at French Middle School, Brent Cripps.
I think Joe read my mind when he talked about the second string coming in. My name is Bruce Mellon. I had the opportunity to coach with Coach DeVar for about 13 years before he retired, and I took his PE job to continue to be a French now. Brent had an emergency surgery that he had to take, so he was unable to make it in. So I was honored enough to be asked to do this. So this is the best offer I could do to honor Nick. Where should this begin? Since I just left our Topeka West welcome back at French Middle School just an hour ago, I'll start right there. This is where the current Topeka West football team comes back, and they get to talk to my team, my French Falcons. And they talk about what it takes to be successful, and they get the big shots and reminisce a little bit about their time in French. By the way, this is the 31st annual Topeka West welcome back, and this is the largest group of Topeka West players that we have ever had at our welcome back. So the program is on the way out in the West. This was all started in 1988. I know because we kept the football for every single season and every single team with their record on it. They're all displayed every welcome back. And also we have laminated posters from each of them anyway. So years ago, with the help of our art teacher, Mike Chavez, and myself, Nick decided to design a new logo for French Middle School. It was called the Power Falcon. It was very similar to the K-State logo. Nick never mentioned the similarity directly, but I believe that it's because at French we aspire to similar virtues of Coach Bill Snyder. So that just gives you a little bit of the insight of what Coach thinks about and what he expects for his players. As the boys this afternoon walked into the locker room, they would slap the Falcon with the words under it that says, "Play like a champion today." If you've seen the movie Rudy, you know what we're talking about. I love the movie reference, but I also think that Nick decided to place this phrase on the wall that it meant for everyone to do his best, or his or her best, at everything they do. When the boys came back to visit today, they would always instinctively slap the Falcon, indicating that they're part of something bigger than just themselves. Even today, they all did so. In his youth in Cuba, Kansas, Nick's baseball team won the state championship in K-18 in 1962. He was the winning pitcher in all 3 games. If you ever go back to the state track meet, you will find that Nick's picture and name is listed amongst the 100-yard dash champion record holders. By the way, that record will never be broken, thanks to the metric system. So that was 1965. I appreciate you guys laughing because my wife didn't when I told this last night. So 1965, that was back before I was born. I wonder what it was like to play football with a leather helmet and before the old pass was invented. Yeah, that's the response I got from my wife. Now seriously, his own success has only inspired him to expect more and the best out of all those around him. Kids would be willing to run through walls if Coach Gabar asked them to. He went on to play baseball at K-State, and after graduation was hired at French. Actually, I think he was hired at Holiday, and I don't know all the other places that we're fortunate enough to have Nick there. But when I came to French, he was there, and it was all about Coach Gabar and those expectations. His coaching exploits, one thing I forgot. His hire at French, I believe, was one of the best hires ever made in USD 501. So somebody smart was in administration. Sounds bad. His coaching exploits include many wrestling championships, football championships, and a decade of domination from 1990 to 2000, where the football teams only lost 2 games. Coach Gabar coached the Topeka West boys, who eventually in 2003 would get 2nd in state in football, 3rd in state in basketball, and the baseball team that won the state championship. And it was coached by, yes, a former Falcon, Warren Sites. As I spoke to Nick on the phone the other night, he mentioned that he ran into a young man named Blake Turner in a store recently. Some of you don't know who Blake is, but Blake is working on becoming a restaurant owner. He recounted all the great memories that he and his siblings had had at French and at West, and he was just one of the thousands of young people that Nick had taught and inspired to play like a champion today. Never one to rest on his laurels, or as he would say, to take a play off. Nick continued to expect the best out of his kids. In 1995, he started a program called To Iraq and Back. This was designed to honor those serving and to protect us around the world in Iraq and our military. We have recently lost a former Falcon named Craig Thomas in the city of Tikrit, which is, by the way, the same province where Saddam Hussein was finally captured. And so Nick started a program that each class would use our rowing machines and row every day in class, every hour, and they would have the dot exercises, and he would monitor and to keep track of all of those meters in order to add up to the 13,700 miles to Iraq and back. It took 2 full years for these classes to be able to do this. And it was the very end of the school year, and that final assembly, when the last person, and it was Craig's younger brother, was the one that came in and completed the last meter for the to Iraq and back. Needless to say, it was a very emotional moment, and I would like also to say it was a very noble moment. And I think noble is one of the best words I can use to describe Coach Gabar. Coach taught kids like Kenny Schwartz, C.B. McGrath, Jason Mills, Quincy Cozy, Mike Holt, Melvin Ware, Brent Cripps, who I am fortunate enough to replace today. And by the way, I did get his job in French too. Brent scored the first touchdown for French Middle School back when French became French. And he would eventually go on to coach and teach alongside Nick. These were along with the thousands of young people, boys and girls who went on to West, graduated, went on to do tremendous things. Because of the teachers, their parents, and as Nick would like to say, because of good old French kids. Upon Nick's retirement, we had an assembly to announce that the football field would be named after him. It would be named Gabar Field. A couple years later, a young man named Eric Hoyt, who was a senior in high school, made it official when he earned his Eagle Scout merit badge by creating a plaque to recognize Coach Gabar's many years of service. Now, Eric had never met Coach Gabar until that actual ceremony. He only knew the legacy and traditions that Coach Gabar established. The most sincere form of flattery is imitation, and he will humbly say what I did, we did. I'm honored to have the opportunity to introduce the man who has influenced so many young lives at French and at West and around this country. That is my good friend, Nick Gabar.
That's a pretty hard act to follow when they say all of those good things about you and you just hope and pray they're true and that other people think the same thing. So thank you, Coach Mellon, and thank you for carrying on a lot of traditions and a lot of the things that we started way back when. Thank you to all who had a part in the process for this honor. I won't mention names for fear of missing someone, so to all involved, thank you. To my wife, Flo, my daughter, Christine, and granddaughter, Bella, my daughter, Holly, and her husband, Steve Morris, and grandsons, Blake and Evan, and to all family members and friends who have always been there to support me, who have taken time out of their lives to be here tonight, to text me on cell phone, to call me, to write or just say words of encouragement over all these years. All I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you. One individual I want to name for his unwavering support since 1962, when he came to my Haddon, Kansas High School as a teacher and coach, is Mr. Ken Swinder. He has been a big part of my success, and I have had him as a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and a dear friend. And he lives now in Parsons, Kansas, and he's still a dear, dear friend after all these 55 years. Teachers do make a difference. Now that I have the formalities out of the way, I still hope I have 5 minutes. You may hear some of the Gabar-isms that French kids have heard over the years, and we'll start with, okay, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. That was my way of telling how much time was left in a game or an inning or something, so it could have been 2 minutes. Now, when I get to 0, just wave, don't say it, please, or it'll mess me up here. I've told my wife, would it be all right on my tombstone if I put 0 minutes? Or would only my kids understand that? One of the most iconic Gabarisms kids have always heard whenever we went outside, and we went outside in all kinds of weather. If it was 100 degrees outside, we went out. If it was freezing outside, we went out. And I think that's what made our kids so tough. They just weren't afraid to be in the elements, no matter what the situation. And that iconic saying is, it could be, it might be, it may be one of the most beautiful days in the history of the world. And that could be on a cloudy, gloomy day, but we said it every day. And it was always followed by, actually, it's a great day to be a French Falcon. Well, actually, every day is a great day to be a French Falcon. And so now, in keeping with that saying, it's a great day to become a member of the TWHS Athletic Hall of Fame. First, I would like to thank God for allowing me to be a teacher and a coach, and for always helping me each day. There were many days, at the end of the day, I would, all the boys had left, I'd pick up the towels and the shirts, and just sit down on the bench and think, you know what, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. 2 quick stories. It may run over 5 minutes, but somebody will catch me. First day of teaching, I was a substitute, or a cooperating, student teacher in the 9th grade at Holiday. Big tough kids, bigger, taller than me and stronger than me. And so anyway, I got to talk real tough to them. First day of my real job, kindergartners. They come in, teacher brings them in, bye, see you in a bit. And so I'm standing there, okay, we're going to do jumping jacks, 10 jumping jacks. Nobody moves. I said, okay, they don't know jumping jacks. Okay, we're going to do toe touchers, and I demonstrate. Still, nobody moves. All of a sudden, I look back on the back row. I've had them all lined up in nice, neat rows. There's a puddle underneath one of the little boys back in the back row. And I think, oh no, what have I done? And then I look over here, and there's another puddle over here. And so I go back to the little boy, and I said, do you need to go to the bathroom? And he said, I already did. And so the teacher comes in about that time, and I've got a mop and a bucket because it's the cafeteria also, and I'm mopping it up, and I said, I don't know what happened. He said, I should have taken him to the bathroom before I came. I knew it. One other quick story. Mike Holt is here. First time I went to French, first day. Now Phil Lloyd, who coached and taught there before me, very popular teacher and coach. And those 9th grade boys weren't about to have me come in and take over Coach Lori's job. So they were, how do you say terrible without being a bad teacher? They were bad. They were going to drive me out of there no matter what. And so we marched. We close drilled march for 3 days. Each day I'd listen at the bottom of the stairs, and there they'd be, up 2, 3, 4, up 2. And so I thought, well, we're marching again today. And so the 4th day, somehow somebody started the rumor that they might have to hold hands to march. Holt is at the top of the stairs. Now, he's as big as he is now back then in 9th grade. Holt stops him up at the top of the stairs and he says, listen, you sons of, you know what? I'm not marching and holding anybody's hands, so you better do what he says today or I'm going to kick your beat. And so those kids came down as mellow as lambs, and the rest of that for 28 years is history. So it wasn't always that I sat there and thought this is a great day. I had great support at French from administrators, teachers, staff, and was privileged throughout the years to work with some of the greatest coaches and send my kids to some of the greatest coaches in Topeka history. All you have to do is look at who they were and the things that they have done. They were the greatest coaches in Topeka. When Dean Burgess and Brent Cripps came to France at the same time to help me coach, France had some of its finest days. I hated it when I had to coach against them, but when we three were together, it was the best of times. It was a real blessing to me, to the kids that we coached. Tim Wilson, who worked so very hard to get the football field at French named in my honor, will always be one of my heroes. I've always said what made French such a great place, and this could be said for all the schools that I taught and coached, were good parents supporting their kids, good kids learning how to work hard, good teachers and coaches who knew what they were doing. They loved what they did, and they loved the kids. I will always believe, sorry about this, the computer shot craps on this. As I was typing this out, it didn't come out real good. And the wife had spent about 6 hours typing it, and it was a mess. One of the reasons this award is possible for me is some of the good old French kids, some of the greatest people in the history of the world. They worked so hard, were so proud of their school, and were proud to wear the colors and represent French Middle School to the best of their ability. And also, if you went to French, as Mr. Mellon said, you know, a big part of French was its traditions. In my opinion, I believe that our traditions were what held our teams, our school together from year to year, team to team, and person to person. The traditions were the glue. I like to tell you some of those traditions. Many of these may not have a lot of meaning to you, but I believe they will have a special meaning to any old French falcon that hears them. I would like to tell you some of those now. French, always having the most kids out for every sport, every year. The Wall of Fame in the boys' locker room were newspaper articles of any former French falcon who did something I put on and posted and told the PE class about their achievements. Each year I would put a new sheet of butcher paper up on the bulletin board and then put the articles up for that year. Actually, when I left, there were 25 years of French history up on that bulletin board in layers of all those years. There's a quote that I read once that I believe conveyed what I tried to do with the article and the stories I told about the former French students. It is from Bernard Malamud. Without heroes, and I quote, "Without heroes, we are all plain people and don't know how far we can go." My thinking was the best heroes for French kids were French kids. The ones who had gone to France, sat in the same places, heard the same stories, had to do the same things, and knew the same traditions. The other traditions were the rowing charts. The 248 meters, 280 meters, or 300 meters in a minute. The welcome back that Mr. Mellon mentioned. The hand slap, which Mr. Mellon mentioned. The walking 2 by 2, going and coming from any athletic event. The eye black that I put on each football player personally, and words of encouragement to each boy before each game. The personal high five or handshake to each player after practice or after a game as they left the locker room. The quiet corner at 33rd and Fairlawn, where all athletes on the bus could not talk until we unloaded at French. They did this in honor of all the athletes who had ever played at French before them. The mouthpieces thrown on the roof of the school building before going into the locker room at the end of the season, complete with the quarterback's call as all players threw their mouthpieces at the same time. Now, chicks think that's the ugliest thing in the history of the world, but guys think that's cool. The footballs with win and loss records for each year always on display. The Rocky music blaring as the boys came down to get ready for the first day of city wrestling. Falcon Grams written in appreciation for something well done. On being a moose or a mini moose. The competitive games were played in PE, complete with the bantering back and forth. The kickball, the volley baseball, the brisket ball, the pumpkin ball with year-ending World Series, complete with newspaper articles that I wrote about each game, each day. And of course, Razzle Dazzle, possibly the greatest football game of all time. The list wouldn't be complete without stopping the football practice, of course, to watch the migrating monarchs, which, by the way, are migrating at this time of the year. Don't pass it up. They're here every year, same time. Now, I don't know if this qualifies as attrition or not, but the smell of the boys' locker room at French never changed for 28 years. And Coach Mellon, who took my job over at French about 13 years ago, tells me the tradition is still going strong. Thank you very much for your time. Go Falcons, they're 4-0 right now, undefeated. Go Chargers, beat Highland Park. Thank you all so much.
Do you see why the selection committee made that choice? I gotta wonder, Nick, does your Power Falcon have a yellow beak like the KU Jayhawk? Nick, you saved me a lot of money. When Miles was there, he used to be a Coke drinker, but you said don't drink dark pop. And I cannot buy him a soda from that time on, which was a good thing. And he still doesn't drink dark pop, unless he's really, really thirsty. So appreciate that. Also, your bad weather thing. What I always said as a coach in cross country, when the weather was bad, I'd instruct the team to go past the opponent's camp and say how much they really enjoyed this weather. Boy, this is great, this is fun. I didn't have a hard sell with that because quite a few of the athletes came from French where that had already been instilled in their modus operandi, so it worked very well. Our next inductee in the coaching category is Ron Stoll. He coached football and track and field at Topeka West from 1978 to 1990. I'm assuming he was a big help to Frank Walton because the football teams were very good in those years. As the head track coach during those years, I know he was a good throwing coach because numerous throwers he coached did well in state meet competitions. In fact, he was on the track and field staff of 2 6A state championship teams. He will be introduced by his son, Ryan.
Coach Ron, that may have been a good enough introduction on its own. Tonight I get the distinct pleasure of introducing Coach Ron Stoll for induction into the Topeka West Athletic Hall of Fame. Before I get to his contribution to Topeka West High School, I should mention, because I know that he won't in his comments, that this represents the second High School Athletic Hall of Fame that Coach Stoll is a member of. In 1985, Coach Stoll was inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame of Chapman High School, where he excelled as a pole vaulter in the era of sawdust and wooden poles, in football as a receiver and punter, and in basketball, where he won the 1965 state championship on a team coached by another Stoll, his father, Wendell. Now, as I get to his time at Topeka West, I'll try to be as factual as possible. However, when the two primary sources for the speech have a combined age of 150 years and our former football coaches, well, I did what I can. But turned into 12 years of coaching track and football here almost never came to be. In 1977, after a largely unmemorable stint as the head coach at Topeka High School, I say unmemorable because it was before I was born. I'm feeling it was probably fairly memorable for him. Coach Stoll was relieved of his duties and reached a crossroads professionally. While considering other options, insurance sales, other sales jobs, and interviewing for other head coach positions in places like Salina, Coach Stoll received a call from a fiery young coach entering the second year of his tenure at Topeka West. Coach Walton needed someone to lead the defense after a 0-9 opening season. As Coach Walton recalled, he invited Coach Stoll to his home, discussed his plan for the defense, and only after offering Coach Stoll a beer was the job offer accepted. At first, when I heard the story, I thought it was fairly bland for a Coach Walton story. If you've heard his stories, they're typically, that was more brief than any other story that I've heard from him. So I thought it was fairly bland, but as I thought about it, I realized there was actually something deeper there. Here you had two relatively young coaches, one coach coming off a winless season, and another who hadn't won enough to keep his job. They quickly bonded over similar defensive philosophies, a deep desire to win, and appreciation for what I can reasonably assume was cheap cold beer. When he arrived for the 78 and 79 school year, Coach Stoll took the reins as defensive coordinator for the football team and as an assistant track coach for the throwing events. In 1978, the football team went 7-2, the first of many successful years. Over the course of the years he would spend at West, he would get an opportunity to coach a number of truly talented athletes and teams, many of whom are in attendance tonight or who have already been enshrined, and positively influence countless more. And that may sound like hyperbole, but I feel comfortable saying it based on 30 years of being out and about in town and having guys come up to him and say, start with that, hey, do you remember me? Before saying hello and reminiscing about their time at Topeka West High School. So on behalf of those players and all you've coached, I say thank you for your time, patience, and dedication to the profession. On behalf of your family, I say thank you for not moving us to Salina. And as your son, I say thank you for the unlimited sideline, locker room, bus ride, and equipment access that made for an amazing childhood. Congratulations on a well-deserved accomplishment.
Well, between Coach Strong and my son, my notes are pretty well shot, but I'll have to go at it. Thanks, Ryan, and thanks, Coach Walton, for putting all that together. And congratulations to the other inductees. It's an honor to go in as an individual with all of you tonight. Thanks to the selection committee. I know Coach Ostrich couldn't be here, but tremendous amount of time that they put in reviewing all of the candidates and all of the applicants. So thanks a lot to you. There's a lot of people that I need to thank. Number one, on my list is my wife. She stayed at home 10 years to raise the kids, get them off to school, postponing her teaching career for that. And truly a blessing, because our family's a great family. Kids are here tonight, Susan, Saber, and you've already met Ryan. So, got to get that boy some trouble. I can still outshoot you, though. I want you to know that. It's great. Coach Walton, Schrog, Ostrich, Coach Mariani, great relationships are made among coaches. There's a huge number of assistant coaches that I've worked with down through the years, and that just goes on. And I got to mention administrators. I didn't have administration down here, Joe, but I had some great administrators also. When I came here, Coach Walton talked to me. Connie Skinner was great, because I worked with Connie a few years at Topeka High. So a big thank you to those guys. The last 2 Sundays in church, we've had sermons on detours. You reach detours in your life. Things come up, and you may be going along great, and all of a sudden, boom, that detour hits you, and it's going to be life-changing. And late fall, winter of 1977, that's where I was. I didn't know what I'd be doing the next year. Finally got a call from Coach Coach Walton, as Ryan pointed out, and had a chance to, he said, come on over and sit down and visit with me. We need to talk a little bit. Hey, sounds great. So I went over to his place one evening, rang the doorbell. He answered the door, and as I start to walk in, he's a big old German Shepherd standing right there by him. And this is kind of where the story varies. There's Coach Walton's version, and there's Coach Stoll's version. Now, according to Coach Walton, he invited me right on in. We went down, we talked a lot of football. He said, would you like to be my D coordinator? And, went on from there. My version of the story is, I walk in to the entryway, Mode, that's the dog, big old German Shepherd. That dog sniffed up one side down there, didn't give me the once over, gave me the twice over. And I swear that dog turned around, looked at Coach, and shook his head. we've owned dogs for a long time. And all I can figure is Moe liked the smell of me, and that was good enough for Moe. Anyway, I thank Coach for all of the years that we had in football. Tremendous number of kids that worked their tails off. And that's why we were successful. But, it wasn't anything special what we did. It's just that the kids worked their tails off for Coach, and that's what was great. I got to work with Coach Schraub in track, shot, distance, and javelin, and the hammer throw. Well, that was not a blessing. But I was telling Joe beforehand here, the nice thing about the shot, discus, and javelin, there's a lot of downtime. You're standing around the range, you get to talking. You find out a lot more about the kids than you do, in a team sport like football. Now, some of the stuff you hear around the range, you don't want to hear. But, they're talking away. So it was a great time to learn more about kids. And one of the highlights that I had was, a couple years ago, I don't know, Coach Walt was getting a new hip, and I got to introduce Joey Herman. And I got to work with Joey in football and track, and that was a thrill. I really enjoyed Joey. Again, coaching, I want to say it's not about the coaches. Coaches work hard, they work their tails off, but it's about the kids and getting the kids convinced to do the work for you. And I had a great stint here at Topeka West. Enjoyed it. I was 1-0 against Coach Walton. Ryan didn't mention that. Again, to the selection committee, I thank you. Joe, thanks a lot.
Pole vault coach at his alma mater. The pole vaulter.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I knew that he had been that.
I had thought this one at Topeka High. My first year, he was one of my vaulters.
No kidding, I did not know that. That's good information.
Set record for shortest fall.
Yeah. Well, I could have put Ron in as assistant pole vault coach, but I was afraid, given his stature, that we didn't have a budget to buy the poles in case for all the ones he would have broken demonstrating. He could demonstrate shot, discus, and javelin, and we weren't in the hole for money.
I only broke 2 in high school.
Now, I think a couple of times, he was vaulting before they had padded landing pits. I think there were times when I thought he flew on his head a few too many times. Our next inductee is 1982 graduate Sherry Waters. She played volleyball and basketball at Topeka West, and I'm sure would have played softball had it been available. She did play softball collegiately as well as volleyball and basketball. She will be introduced by Bonnie Walker, along with her husband Randall, are two of the most ardent supporters of Topeka West activities, not just sports, but activities. A fun fact, Randall is himself in the Hall of Fame as a special award recipient and will be a recipient of the Owen Hinson Distinguished Staff Award this coming Sunday. Bonnie, do your introduction.
Students who participate in extracurricular activities give themselves many opportunities to absorb, learn, and practice positive skills, behaviors, and attitudes. Teamwork is the critical, ultimate goal that is specifically and deliberately developed through athletics, along with leadership, decision-making, commitment, passion for doing well, stretching one's limits, and setting and persevering towards meeting realistic high goals. All of those are key life lessons, the very foundations upon which a successful life can be built. Those lessons are ones that Sherry Waters developed by being an active part of a team. Over the years, I've witnessed growth in Sherry as she utilized these life lessons, beginning with her time as an excellent young athlete here at Topeka West, then throughout her professional career as an exemplary teacher and coach at Topeka High, an innovative curriculum developer, coordinator, and program developer at Hope Street Academy, a steady and consistent administrator at Highland Park, and a go-to solid associate principal at Topeka West, to which she came home to serve and give back to the school where the seeds of leadership and teamwork were planted. She continued to refine and utilize these same life lessons as she developed a novel learning program, plus a student mentoring program at Platte County High School in Missouri, where she is currently an associate principal. One example in which Sherry demonstrated her outstanding teamwork skills is that at Hope Street Academy, she worked with a broadly diverse staff and molded them into an effective team. She was instrumental in getting the team to develop a program that had individual plans for all students. The resulting master schedule included multiple approaches to teaching and learning. With her commitment and intentional and thoughtful leadership, that team created a school environment that was completely all about kids. The basis of her professional teamwork and leadership skills originated right here at TWHS as an athlete. You should carefully read the program that contains the many honors that Sherry earned in high school, such as honorable mention All-State, All-League, Second Team. Her college awards and records are many and impressive. All-Conference, Second Team, All-Region 6, All-Tournament, Most Valuable Player, and others. Sherry is who she is because of a variety of influences, among them her family and the key staff at TWHS who played a significant role in her life. Dwayne Scheffelberger, Carol Wilson, Charlie Myers, Marge Bacalar, Mike Prince, Lois Jones, and others. Sherry should be in the TWHS Hall of Fame as she is an exemplary professional who completely absorbed and practiced what she was taught in athletics, and she is one who has continued to do that throughout her professional life. It's a privilege for me to introduce my friend and former colleague, Sherry Barnes.
Well, I think the last time I was standing up here, it was in front of the class of 2010, telling them not to bring silly string and blow-up dolls to commencement. Yeah. So, anyway, it's good to be back. It's an honor, for sure, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, I have a lot of people to thank. Bonnie, thanks for the kind introduction. Bonnie could have said a lot of different things because we talked together. And if you're a teacher, if you know teachers, you know that we like to play also. And so, Bonnie, you're a great playmate and a great colleague. Thank you. Also, thanks to my family. I told them, what have you done wrong to be sitting and sent to the front row here? But yeah, here they are, my family, Mom and Chris and Jennifer, Aunt Judy, Nanette, and then extended family and friends, Beth and the Freemans and Sarah Hischke. Thank you for being here. It's an honor. I've served on this Hall of Fame committee, and so I do know the hours that are put into it. And thanks, Rich, for leading that up. I really appreciate that. And thanks to all the committee members as well. So, you know, I was trying to think of a theme for today because there are a lot of things I could say. But I landed on everything is training for something. I got a story behind that. Frank, where are you? Frank Walton? Right over there. All right. So, yeah, I know a lot of people kind of roast you at these things, but I have something nice to say about you. So, my sophomore year, I'm in Frank Walton's speech class. Yep. And he had a demonstration speech planned where I think he had two different buckets, you know. Remember, I was only 15, I don't know all the details. So, but he had male type of things and female type of things, and he had the girls choose out of the boys' bucket and the boys out of the girls. And I thought, okay, all right, so what do I draw? I draw how to clean a gun. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, we all know that wouldn't happen today, right? But, so what do? I get resourceful, and I go home, and I talk to my dad about this. And so he gets the pipe cleaners out, he gets the BB gun or whatever gun it was, I'm not sure. Anyway, and so he taught me how to do that. So everything is training for something. I learned a new skill. how to clean a gun. I don't remember how to do it now, but I did then. But I learned a new skill. I learned to collaborate. I collaborated with my dad, and we communicated, and we created a plan. And I actually delivered a speech. All right. Everything is training for something. Learned my research and writing skills that suit me to this day from Marge Bacalar and Carol Wilson. What tremendous resources they were. Mike Prince, we can throw him in there also. What a great sense of humor. But those skills have served me well, not only as a teacher and a coach, but also as an associate principal. Everything's training for something. Dwayne Shuffleberger and project-based learning is probably the best experience I had here outside of athletics, and that was as yearbook editor. And imagine the skills that you walk away with after that experience. How to create a budget, leadership, how to have those courageous conversations with people when they're not meeting their deadline, organization, planning, and talking to adults. Great skills, great skills. Everything is training for something. Charlie Myers, head basketball coach. Love that man. He was hard on us. He's a lot harder on us than I learned later. Is Dan Dreyer still around here? Yeah. I heard later those two, they were good buds. And we thought, why do we have two-a-day practices over Christmas break? Does anyone else have two-a-day practices? Both Coach Dreyer, Coach Myers, yep, Highland Park girls have two-a-day practices. I graduated and I talked to Wendy Gray. I said, weren't those two-a-day practices you had at Highland Park awful? She goes, what are you talking about? We never had two-a-day practices. Wow, thanks. So, but those skills, commitment to a team, fueling a passion, motivation to get better, embracing my role on a team, probably the most difficult thing to do, failure, but also those celebrations. Those skills have served me well, and they serve me well today in my position. They didn't as well as in college. And so, it was time to give back. It's time to be a teacher, it's time to be a coach. And I gotta tell you, my time at Topeka High School as a head volleyball coach is hands down probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And I have used those same skills, all the skills I just rattled off to you, in that position. But I have something I want to share with you. Rhonda Benning, and by the way, her daughter was an outstanding athlete at Topeka High, graduated last May. She was one of my volleyball players, and here on September 22nd, 2016, on her Facebook page, she writes this: Coach, I was thinking about you today and how you always motivated us to be the best. You were hard when you needed to be and always fair. You took a bunch of individuals and turned us into a team and a family, and for that I am forever appreciative. You not only taught us the game, but many life lessons. I just wanted to say thank you. What a wonderful tribute, and folks, isn't that what it's all about? Thank you.
There's a common saying, you can't go home again. Sherry just proved that. She not only came back home to Topeka West, but Topeka West was the better for it, as were all the other places where she went. Our next inductee is a 1982 graduate, Terry Kerner, who played football and wrestled for Topeka West. In fact, he has a 6A state wrestling championship on his resume. He will be introduced by Topeka West alumnus Billy Breyer.
Last time I remember being in this auditorium, the band Kansas played their first and only concert here. That was a fun night. But this is a special evening. I'd like to congratulate all the former and soon-to-be Hall of Fame inductees. It's an honor to be asked to introduce the next Hall of Fame inductee, Terry Kerner. It's rare that a coach is able to coach somebody and be there with them and have them actually get to the pinnacle of their sport. So Terry's got a special place in my heart. In the paper it read, Terry Kerner, 1982 graduate. Kerner played football and wrestled. He was selected first team All I-70, second team All-City, and football for the Chargers. Kerner won a 6A state wrestling championship at 167 pounds. Posted a 29-2 record on the way, winning the regional, sub-state, and the I-70 league titles. He was a football walk-on, and he earned his mechanical engineering degree at Kansas State. That captures Terry's Hall of Fame statistics, but they only touch on what made Terry a Hall of Famer. Literally, these things I know as a coach to be true about Terry. Terry always tried his best. He always listened. He was always there. He led by example. He kept improving. He never caused any issues. He was a great teammate. He was a pleasure to coach. Sounds like a pretty good guy, huh? As a coach, I learned from my dad and coaches like Coach Walton and Coach Stoll and Coach Jameson, who was a wrestling coach, that winning's not everything, but making the effort to win is. And in the process, you really want your players to be the best they can be as individuals, for the team to be the best they can be as a team, when it's all said and done, to be better people for having played and competed in sports. Coaches all have unique styles, and I was wound a bit tight. I really wanted you to be the best you could be, but I was going to make sure that that happened. Terry bought into my mania and just kept getting better in spite of me. Terry is the story of what a person can do if they set their mind to a goal and work extremely hard for it. I'm sure these qualities have served him well in his adult life. He was a good football player and a good wrestler his junior year. He was a center and a defensive guard. And he was not that big, but had a big heart, which makes up for a lot, especially in high school. He wrestled at, I thought, 145, but I found out it was 138. He should have wrestled 145, but that's a whole other story. He was good, but not great. And he competed, but he competed hard in every match. Before his senior year, I think Terry realized that he was the center on the football team, which we all knew was going to take a hard run at the state championship. He needed to come back in the best shape he'd ever been in, and as far as being a wrestler, he was just tired of being just good. I think he wanted more than that. When he showed up for practice that fall, he was a totally different guy. He was bigger, stronger, faster. He put in work, and he was ready for his senior year. He helped lead one of the best football teams West has ever put on the field to within an inch of a state run. And that's when we all of us that were related to that football team, we all wish we had that extra inch on that one. We were so close. And he became as good a wrestler as I've ever been around. In the wrestling room, I was the only one of the coaches. The other three were almost 300 pounds each. I was the only coach that was small enough to wrestle against most of the kids. So I figured if we were going to win the state, we had to work and wrestle hard. I'm not proud of this, but I acted more like a big brother with a whistle than a coach on the mat, and we went at each other very hard. Somewhere in Terry's senior year, he got so good that I felt like a mouse being toyed with by a cat. So like many older brothers, there comes a time when you realize it's not good to mess with that cat anymore. For my own safety, I never wrestled Terry again. He was out of my league. I leave you with this story, as my memory has it. Our wrestling team, Terry's senior year, took fourth in the state. Terry had a true shot at an individual state title. I'm not sure if it was in the state or the regional meet, but Terry got a cheap poke in the eye from his opponent, and the match was halted. Terry was checked out and would be okay to continue. As Coach Jameson and I were walking back, Coach was really worried about Terry and how he would handle this adversity. I laughed. I looked at Coach. I said to him, I'm more worried about the other guy. He's going to get pummeled. Literally, Terry could have pinned him at any moment. But like a cat toying with a mouse, he just reminded the guy, you really shouldn't have done that. He won the match 17-2 and went on to win the state title. He was a state champ. Not many get to say that. Congratulations on your Hall of Fame, Terry. Terry Kerner.
And I'm going to get back to Billy. Thank you, Billy. When I was thinking about who could do this, my son couldn't come back. My one daughter is in Korea, and my youngest was a competitive cheerleader, not necessarily really that interested in what maybe Dad did in high school. So I was thinking about someone who could do this. And initially I thought about my dad, because I'll start with that. I thank God for the parents that I was given. We can all complain about our parents. We can all complain about things that maybe we would have liked to be different, but I can't complain about mine. My dad is here. He's 88, and my mom would love to have been here today, except we just moved into a nursing home about 2 months ago. So I talked to her today, and she would have liked to have been here, but just couldn't. As far as other people, really this was probably thanking people more than anything else tonight. Because I look back and I'm going to contradict Coach Stoll. Probably not a good thing to do when I was playing. But, he said the coaches weren't special. I think a lot of the coaches were special. I look back and look at the coaches that I got to play for in high school, and we had a lot of great coaches. Coach Stoll on the defensive side, and I'm going to go through and tell some stories about these as I progress back through. Then there was Dennison and Gonzo that were our coaches, and actually those are the other two besides Billy that were both in both sports that I played in high school. So it was really Billy, Gonzo, and Rob Dennison. And the one thing I really appreciated about Billy is when we were on the blocking sled, he was about half the size of those other two guys. And then before jumping into some of the coaching and a couple of stories I wanted to tell, I do want to thank my teammates, because I am not one of those people that would have, I would go back and relive my high school days, but I didn't stay stuck in my high school days. I appreciated them, and I will always have fond memories of my high school days. But a lot of that, too, was the guys I got to play with. It was the coaches I got to play for, and the guys that I got to play with. I'm going to miss people's names, but Mike's sitting over there. Mike was bigger than I was in junior high. We actually used to toss the ball to Mike in junior high, and he'd carry about 4 people down the field. And then, as we got into high school, Mike continued to get bigger and to progress. And then, we had, thinking about my senior year of the line, I had Rod on one side, I had Chuck on the other. And, we had Tony at quarterback, Matt Shutter, Brad Cursine. One of the things that we used to go to, I'm bouncing back and forth, but one of the things we used to do every Monday was we'd do film day. And one of the things that still makes me laugh today is we're going through films, and we break free, and Brad's running behind somebody with his finger up, and Coach Walton looks at him and says, "Proceed, we take 6 cheerleaders, hit somebody." But it was a special group of players that I got to play with too. Whether you're talking about wrestling or you're talking about football, it was really the people that I got to be with that made it special. Still like to come back and play. I haven't the last couple of years, play in the golf tournament and see some of those people just because it was such an enjoyable time in life. I'm going to go back and tell a few other stories and probably talk about coaches. Now I'm going to bounce off of what Billy said a little bit earlier. In my junior year, I really probably should have wrestled at 145, and I wrestled at 138. And by the end of the year, I was tired of cutting weight, and I was tired of, I just was kind of over the season early. I'm not going to say I quit, but my head just wasn't in it at the end. And coming back my senior year, Billy kind of made me a project. Now, the things that I remember about that is, he pushed me, and like he said, we would wrestle during practice, and Billy would take that beard of his and rub it all over my face, and I was about 20 pounds heavier than he was, and it was motivation by irritation. but it worked. And the other thing that, I don't think Billy ever caught on to this, but Billy came up with these, this training routine that was 30 to 45 seconds on each station. And he had about, 20 or 30, probably 10 or 15 different stations we had to rotate through. This was CrossFit before CrossFit was cool. So Billy, if you would have actually gone with that idea, it might have made you wealthy. As far as some of the other stories I would have about coaches, Coach Jameson, as far as our two head coaches, Coach Jameson was a great wrestling coach. And he actually was, very tolerant of some of the things we did. But at one point, my senior year, I was angry after I wrestled badly in the league tournament, and I threw my headgear. And so Mike's over there laughing. I threw my headgear, and we ended up tying for the league championship. So it was me and my loss of a team point that caused us to tie as opposed to win that outright. And so, I got a lot of grief from my teammates, rightfully so, telling me that, hey, that was stupid. Coach Jameson didn't say a lot to me. And then I got into practice on Monday, and I'm thinking, okay, everything's good. And then Coach Jameson, and anybody who knew Coach Jameson, he was probably, north of 300 pounds. And basically he looked at me and he said, "You're my partner today." And it was not my favorite wrestling practice, but it did teach a little bit of character. Then, with regard to Coach Walton, there's probably no one I respected as a coach more than Coach Walton. I'm not going to roast you. Well, I may actually make a comment or two, but I'm not going to roast you, Coach. There are, I don't know how many times you call me a tomato head. I know it's more than I can count on my fingers and my toes. I guess the other advantage I got in getting to know Coach Walton a little bit better too is I didn't really grow up that far from him. And I remember playing knee football with Chris, Brian, and Robbie in the front yard. There was a number of things that happened, my senior year that are memorable. One of them was, I would have probably, if Coach Walton would have told me to run through the wall, I would have tried. And I remember we were playing Lawrence, and if there's one game my senior year, I would love to have 5 minutes back. It's when we played Lawrence, but at one point during the game, and I had to ask Mike the name of the other player, it was Griffith, who was an all-state tackle. He hit me on the sidelines, and I was sitting there wheezing, trying to get my breath back in my body. And Coach Walton said, "Get up." So it's like, okay, I've got to get up. So I got up, and then the other thing that happened in that game is at the very end, the last 3 minutes, Chuck Sanders and I both broke through the line and had a chance to hit the quarterback. And if we would have hit him, we'd have probably won that game. But he stepped forward, and Chuck and I hit each other. And I think that was the hardest I got hit all year. And I would have loved to have 5 minutes back in that game, just because I think we were the better team. But, some of those things you got to let go, I guess, as you get older. The other story that I'll tell about Coach Walton is there was an incident. Sherry brought up Coach Walton's speech class. I never had Coach Walton for speech. But I had a friend, I use that term loosely, actually he's still a friend, but who was in Coach Walton's speech class. And he and I and another friend had gone out on a Friday night before and done something that I'm not going to go into the details of. It wasn't illegal, but I came out of I was going in between classes, and I came out, and Coach Walton is standing there just looking at me like this. And I'm kind of like, Coach, what'd I do? And he said, you're going to spend a lot of time on the sled. And I did, but actually it really wasn't that bad of an event. This friend of mine had decided to make this Friday night event a speech in Coach Paul Walton's speech class. But I guess in conclusion, I will say that, our coaches taught us a lot of things about character, a lot of things about, pushing ourselves, all the things that I think you want your kids taught as they're growing up. I was fortunate enough to play with a lot of people that, if I could do it again, I'd pick the same group. So I appreciate the consideration from the committee, and it's an honor to have been inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Now look at Terry as he walks back. He's a pretty good-sized fellow right there. As a high school coach, he turned over every rock he could to have a successful team. And one of the things I did was Terry had a reputation as being a really competitive fellow, and I checked with his middle school coaches. And I had him on my prospect list. I don't know, Terry, if you remember me coming around your house with my information on summer running and stuff like that. But I had high hopes that you would be a cross-country runner. After all, who plays football at 140 pounds? Probably it was less than that then. But at any rate, you passed up what might have been a tremendous career as a cross-country runner. And I wouldn't have called you a tomato head. Our next inductee is 1985 basketball player Hakeem Azim. He will be introduced by his brother Sharif, who is himself a member of the TWHS Sports Hall of Fame.
Since I've been here, it's a pleasure to be back. And I think my talk is going to be like a little bit different. I had already left school here when Hakeem was here doing his thing, so I don't have quite as many memories of what he did here on campus and things like that. However, what I can share and what I want to try to get across is the kind of person my brother Hakeem is. So I'm the firstborn. I used to say the oldest, but now I'm starting to say firstborn. Big children. A lot of my brothers and sisters are back there, toward the back. So Hakeem is the thirdborn. So, growing up, we have the whole fights and all that, and I was really mean big brother and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, I'm just going to try to look insight into the kind of person that he is, and really talk about why not only is he in the Hall of Fame here, but why he also is in my personal Hall of Fame. So, Hakeem is the owner of Relevant Now, a nationally recognized consultancy that focuses on criminality, security, and decision analysis. Right? Big statement, but a lot of heady stuff. He's out there in the trenches doing a lot of good work. He's written 2 books and published over 80 articles related to his work. He continues to compete in basketball tournaments in the Western region, and recently returned from the National Senior Games in New Mexico. So he's in his 50s and he's still playing nationally competitive basketball. So I gave that up a few years ago. So he's also an advocate for healthy aging and resides in Idaho with his family. So a few reasons why my brother is in my personal Hall of Fame. So he's a man who really cares deeply for the well-being of others, which is demonstrated by many hours that he actually goes into prisons to connect with those inmates who are in some of the toughest positions and some of the most hardened criminals. So he has consistently shared a lot of stories of life-changing events that he has had with some of his inmates. And he's done that consistently for quite a number of years. I'll mention that even Jesus took note of some of his followers when he said, "You visited me when I was in prison." If you ask him or have time to talk with him, he'll share some stories with you. He's got lots of them. He also has designed practical programs that actually have been adopted and used by a lot of the local agencies who are also trying to help prisoners. So he's put a lot of time and effort into that. And these programs have been very well received, and they have actually helped a lot of people move on with their life. I would also say he's a man of action, primarily, but he's also good at putting words together, too, as evidence from the over 50 articles that he has published related to his work. So he also does quite a bit of public speaking, and he really has been gifted and has chosen to use that gifting not just for his own aggrandizement or his own gain, but really to try to make a difference for other people. And that's where I would say I also have had a chance to look at his motivations. And I think a lot of times we think about what we do in life, and it's important, especially as we get older, to think about, why are we doing certain things? We all have, so much time to make an impact, and I think our motivations make a big difference. So I truly do believe that he's a person I've been able to watch over the years whose motivation is to truly make a positive difference in this world, and he has done that and is continuing to do that. And I think a lot of us in the room also have been positively impacted by him, and we can testify to that. He's also a man of wisdom. So I know when I'm struggling with an issue or really need some insight, he's definitely one of the people that I call. And I know I can always count on what he's going to share. And it's not only just knowledge that he has about different areas, but how to actually apply that knowledge so it's effective and makes a difference. And there's a lot of people out there who seem to know a lot about different things, but maybe not necessarily accurate. Another thing is, I would say, he is a very diligent overcomer. And he's driven by a strong faith in God. And I will mention that he's had some major challenges to overcome. I'm sure all of us have had challenges as well, but he has, in particular, had some very challenging ones, and he's overcome them. And I've watched him do that over the years. And one of the challenges wasn't even on his radar, I'm sure, at all, as far as some of the other things he dealt with, but just how mean I was as an older brother, right? I have brothers and sisters who can testify to that fact.
Yes.
So I tried to work on that. So the last thing, one of the last things I'll mention, well, not next to last, is that he's a natural leader. And I saw that firsthand growing up on a basketball court, right? So, I used to be able to get some lift in the air because I used to high jump. And but playing on the basketball court, I never really quite got the ball handling, dribbling thing down. I'd get the ball and I'd try and all of a sudden it would come like that. And we'd be playing out there, and he's like, "Okay, Sheree, look, just now, get your ball, try to get underneath the goal, right? Just stay close to the rim, and then just go up for like a layup or try to dunk it. And if you don't have anything, don't try to dribble too much. Just give it back to me or one of your teammates." He was like, coaching me from rare to get. He had everybody what they were supposed to be doing on the court. So and that's continued to this day. So he really is just a natural leader, and is following his passion, which I admire him for. And lastly, and what I think is also very important, it's not only his character, but I consider him a very trustworthy friend. And so I love you, bro. Let me introduce you to my younger brother, Hakeem Hazim.
I want to thank my father. A lot of the things that have been said about me, I think can be, those of us who've had good fathers can testify to the long-term benefit and impact that that has. Working in the criminal justice field as I do in the security field, one of the things I see all over the country is kids without fathers really, really struggle. So I want to thank you, Dad, for being an excellent role model of manhood, perseverance. He raised 8 kids as a business owner. A lot of times when you get a check and you know that check is coming, there's certain security. You got 8 mouths to feed, a wife, and coming up in the age of the 60s and 70s and racial segregation, all these things, you know. But I watched my dad go from different jobs to owning his business and always hustling with a smile on his face and confidence. And that taught me a lot, so thank you, Dad. The other person I want to mention is Coach Oshers, being prayer for him. His wife has some real serious health issues, and he took time to call me today and has been in touch with me over the years. Great mentor of mine. We were able to actually, together though, Coach O and I butted heads on different things. We were able to change the culture of TWHS basketball, and we started to win. Coach Walton's teams always won, you know, and the basketball team was kind of an afterthought, but Coach O's a great guy. I kind of had a theme today too, and I really wanted to talk about mentoring. I've got, even though Sharif says he was a mean older brother, I watched Sharif go into the weight room. You know, he's thin, he's always been thin, but he has always worked so hard. And I remember going to the gym with him once at 14, and I swore I never wanted to go back there because that was so hard. It was the most difficult workout I ever went through. And he was doing it by himself, so no one was pushing him. So Sharif was a mentor to me, just as Kareem was, and you know, my younger brothers and sisters, all of them are here today. And we are a big family, so we were always spurring each other on, encouraging each other, and that was a powerful thing. If you're familiar with the scriptures, Jesus talks about mustard seed of faith and how that grows and expands. Well, when you're young, sometimes you have a mustard seed of doubt, and that grows and expands. Anybody ever struggle with self-doubt? Still? Well, I was such a young man, and I ran into a guy by the name of Joe Heiston. I don't know how many people know him or have ever met him. I know my sister Natira does. But Joe Heiston was a 20-something, bearded, soft-spoken guy, and I was out shooting baskets, you know. And he asked me, you know, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm shooting baskets. He goes, well, that's not basketball. I was 13 years old, and I left Jardine, and now I'm going to be going to French. And I had very little confidence. I didn't know what I was doing. And I started to go to Crestview. Just every time Crestview Community Center was open, I was there. That was my second home. And I remember getting better and being mentored. And what Joe taught me was that people who were older than you could actually take an interest in you without self-interest. Teachers, educators, law enforcement folks are some of our best and brightest people who don't make a lot of money. I know because I was an educator for 5 years. But they do it because they believe in the next generation. So as we start talking about, you know, the Hall of Fame and the different honor it is, and it is a great honor, but it caused me to reflect on the people that helped me get such an honor. It also caused me to reflect on those people who never really had a chance, those people who didn't have the supports. And that's why I do the work I do. And what I'd like to encourage you guys to do today in concluding is you think about those mustard seeds of doubt. those mustard seeds of faith, the mustard seeds of self-confidence. Every day you can breathe something into a young person's life, and you can transform and change them. Or you can choose not to. And we know what young people are struggling with today, a lot of the stuff because of what older people are modeling, what's in our political arena, what's in our media, what's all around us. I will always remember the lessons that I got from TWHS, lessons like perseverance, showing up in time. How many people remember Mr. Tidwell? Anybody got? He didn't have to chase me around, he just pointed at me, you know? You know, he couldn't run too fast, you know, we all. But you learn to walk the walk, you learn to talk the talk. If you didn't have your grades in order, you didn't get to play. You didn't get to cut corners. TWHS is an excellent school, a place where I learned a lot of things. And I can't say enough good things about the teachers who impacted me, the teammates I had an opportunity to play with, and the opportunity to come back here and be inducted with all of you wonderful people is a great honor indeed. So thank you for having me.
Have quite a presence in the TWHS Sports Hall of Fame. He's one of several. Ask his dad one time if whether all of his kids got their athletic talent from him. And Omar's pretty humble, but he didn't say that was the case. But I do know that he was a Golden Gloves boxer. And maybe that's the reason his kids all toed the line. I don't know. I still remember the time out at Seaman when the public address announcer introducing the team said, "Hackham has him." Well, I keep torching them for about 30 of them. Our next inductee is 1989 graduate Jeff Bruce, a football player and wrestler, another one. I didn't go after him for cross country because he's a little bigger guy. He will be introduced by longtime District 501 educator Jeff Litfin.
Congratulations to all the recipients. It's my pleasure to speak to you tonight on behalf of Jeff. Our relationship began in January of 1980. I was entering my first teaching assignment at Carter Elementary. And he was one of 26 kids that I was handed, 12 who were true hellions. I won't tell you if Jeff was in that group. There's a possibility he was. Dr. Frank Wilson was the principal, and he informed me after I'd signed my contract and I'd showed up that these little saints had run their previous teacher off. She was now out of the profession, and it seems that she left the state and was seeking emergency psychotherapy, somewhere in the Dakotas. Jeff and his two younger brothers, Greg and Timmy, were now living in Topeka with their late grandmother, Isabel. And Isabel was a true saint. They were here due to being the recipients of life's cruelest circumstance. Their mom had been killed tragically in an accident. This event set a stage for a life unexpected for Jeff, but one extremely well played to date. Jeff was an inquisitive, disciplined, thoughtful, and hardworking student who loved science. He loved social studies, and surprisingly, handwriting. Any academic endeavor that required deep thought or skill, he excelled in. In fact, he often stayed after school and posed really high-level questions to me. I had no answers for him, so I said, "Grab that rag and scrub the board down, because tomorrow would be another great day of learning." recess, I often would join my boys and some of the girls out in the field, and they would run little pass routes, and I would throw them kind of lazy rainbows with football. And there wasn't a day gone by that I didn't thank God for making Jeff such a superior student. Because after a few of those sessions, I knew right then and right there that he'd become a scientist before an athlete. That was a joke, Jim. 2 years later, I made sure that Jeff was in my 6th grade class because I'd been advanced to 6th. And that little herd of 12 had thinned itself, and many of the troublemakers were gone. And Jeff was palling around with just great kids in the 6th grade. Some of these guys would be, and girls would be, his lifelong friends, and I'm so happy that some of them are here tonight to help celebrate with Jeff. And this is my 2nd round with that. He was curly-headed, real thin and wiry, and in my mind I kept saying, he's still okay, he's still okay. I haven't messed him up yet. And much to my relief, that year, he also began to finally show some muscle tone and better coordination. Jeff was now a part of my family. My wife Janet, my kids Joe, Jane, and Jody, my parents, my brothers and sisters were now part of his life. He became accustomed to our rowdy clan and was a welcomed addition. In middle school, family members would watch Jeff participate in football and wrestling. It was evident he had a passion for sport and was a good athlete, working very hard to become a better athlete. He was surrounded by great teachers and great coaches, and they had a lasting influence on him. Jeff often worked for my late father-in-law during the summer. Gino was an old school carpenter, and Jeff worked hard and picked up a lot of skills. As part of his benefit package, Gino would hit a drive-in, usually Sonic, around noon and feed Jeff lunch. The amount of food young Jeff could put away was obscene. The boy could eat. On the job, Gino often verbalized in what we used to call carpenter speak. Jeff learned many new words working on those jobs, much to the chagrin of Grandma Isabel. But he also saw how a good man behaves, acts, and treats people, which has stuck with Jeff to this day. I also believe that it was during those work sessions Jeff decided he'd use his brain. I also wanted to say that those were the days before regimented protocol, and if you didn't have a good coach that recognized that, you couldn't make the trouble. I also saw a man on the sidelines who taught Jeff and other young men the right way about football and life and God. Coach Walton, your influence on Jeff and hundreds of other students and athletes is unparalleled, and I know that Jeff loves you and respects you. Jeff was a 4-year letterman in football and a 3-year letterman in wrestling. He was nominated All-City, All-State, All-70 League, and he and his teammates were co-I-70 League champions. College was next, and Jeff earned an athletic scholarship to Emporia State University. He visited when he could, but he always left our house with a couple dozen of Janet's cookies, which he hid from his teammates under his bed. We loved watching the Hornets on the field, and during his 4 years there, he attained personal and team success. His freshman year, they were national champion finalists. He was all district, he was all conference, and his senior year, he was a preseason All-American, All-Conference, Defensive Player of the Year, and led the conference in tackles, and he was named an All-American. There are so many who have positively influenced him throughout his life. I thank God for Isabel, Janet, Coach Walton, Coach Kramer, Howard and Carolyn Kuhn, his father and mother-in-law, and again, his lifelong elementary, middle, and high school friends. They were all there at the right time at the right place for Jeff. Jeff also had a great influence on our children. Joe watched Jeff play football. Joe played football. Jane watched him play football at Emporia State. She went to Emporia State. Jody watched Jeff and his teammates party in downtown Emporia after a game. She became a prosecuting attorney. The person who undoubtedly deserves the credit for keeping the Bruce family values show going for at least 25 years is his lovely wife, Amy, who's not here with us tonight, but you talk about the same. Whether his accomplishments on the field are lofty, in my mind, his finest achievement is being a great father. Landon, Jeff and Amy's oldest daughter, is a senior in high school and will attend Mississippi State on a full-ride scholarship. Ole Miss. Next year on a softball scholarship. Glad she's not here. Jaden, Jeff and Amy's youngest daughter, is a superior student and shows the same inquisitive academic nature seen in her father many years ago. I'm hoping there still is a scientist maybe in the Jeff I know is strong-willed, strong-minded, loyal, but most of all resilient. I'm proud I am part of his life. It's always a teacher's honor to see a student succeed in life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored. Jeffrey. I don't know if I'm going to make it through this week. I'm serious. Leave today, as I'm putting this together, I'm flying out here from California. Truly about gratitude and thanking people in my life. This is supposed to be joyous. 25 years ago, I never cried. As I've gotten older, for some reason, it's become a lot easier. I just want to say I'm grateful to people like Jeff and Coach Walton. I think he gave you a little bit of how I was brought up. And my grandmother raised me with 2 brothers. Her second family, she didn't sign up for that. She knew I needed a father figure, and Jeff provided that at a young age. I'll forever be thankful. He stole my Gino story. Jan's father, his father-in-law, taught me what work ethic is. And we were putting in 14, 15-hour days, and I wasn't more than 10, 12, 13 years old. And the deal was $5 an hour and free lunch. And he's right. Sonic back then, I don't know, the menu prices are a lot higher today, but it wasn't unusual for us to spend $25 at Sonic. And after about 3 weeks of that, he says, "How about I pay you $10 an hour and buy your own lunch?" And I was sharing this story with Mrs. Waters earlier about, and I'll just segue into this because it's a little bit about my being, can't gain a pound when you're 18, 19 years old, to eat 10,000 calories a day. I played tight end for Coach Walton, and back then I think our average line might have weighed 205, 210 maybe. And I weighed 200, and I was hell-bent on getting a scholarship in college. And all the college coaches, KU, K-State, Washburn, said, we love your athleticism, we love the fact that you can catch the ball, we love the fact that you can run, you've got good speed, but you're just not tall enough, and you don't have the frame to get yourself up to 250, 260. Well, it's taken 30 years, but I proved all that. I'm down to 260. I'd stick with the funny stuff, I'll get through this. I want to thank Jeff and Jan and their family, because as they started to have their family, they genuinely cared about not only myself, but my brothers, and I really appreciate that. I grew up with some people, much like I think some of these folks might be in the Hall of Fame. I heard Chuck Sanders' names earlier. I think I took a beating from him in backyard football. Some of the Blackburn family, the Preisner boys, I think all three of them put some knots on my head. Gary Knight, Randy Knight, and John Knight. I think Gary, Randy, you're here tonight. I got a couple of knots from all of those guys. They were my next door neighbors. Twitty Hawkins, I don't know if you all remember who Twitty Hawkins is. He was another one that lived in the neighborhood that, and Mr. Peach. And then Mark Johnson, who I believe is in the Hall of Fame, as well as his brother Boo. So I happen to live in an area with a lot of great athletes that became TWHS athletes, and they really taught me how to be tough, and you want to talk about resilience. And all those guys are a lot older than I am, the majority of them are. And I learned a lot from them about toughness. Some of this is luck, and I don't think I've ever told this story, and I know I don't think I've ever shared it with Coach Walton, but my freshman year, there was tryouts, and I didn't know what a tackle was, a guard, a center, a running back, a fullback, a tight end, sure that was what it was. And there's, I don't know, 100 kids, and all of a sudden coaches start yelling, receivers, follow me. The coach would run off with the position coach with the receivers, running backs and quarterbacks, follow me. And the last group was tight ends. True story, and I went, I guess I'll go check this out. And they were throwing the ball around a little bit, and I could catch a football, and I was like, this might work out. I weighed, I don't know, 140 pounds. I wrestled 145 and 138 as well. And so it was luck. I picked the right position and went on to be pretty good at it. So much so that Chris Walton and I, Cruncher, fast became friends my junior and senior year. And Coach Walton saw something in me and created a flex tight end position and included myself in the offense. And I became an all-state tight end purely by accident, that I picked the right position, but also from great coaching. Chris couldn't be here tonight, but he lives about 30 minutes away from where I do in California. We play a lot of golf together, and there's not a day that I don't talk to him that I always point out that he was a big part of pushing me to be the best I could be. I'm going to tell you that he was lying to me when we would work out and run levels. And for those of you that played football, you probably remember what levels are. And it's a lot of sprinting. And I hated every bit of it. And if I'm not mistaken, level 1 was the easiest, and you progressed to level 5. And Chris would show up, and I'd say, what are we doing today? And he says, level 2. I'd say, okay. And we'd run those and he'd work my tail end off, and when we get done, he'd smile and go, "You just finished level 3." He says he's fooling me. I still think he was lying to me. So I want to thank Cruncher for pushing me and making me the best that I could be, keeping me in shape. I want to thank Dave Fowley and Rodney Middendorf, as well as Stuart Miles. I did not like to lift weights. I still don't. I haven't lifted one since 1994. True story. Except for the 12-ounce kind. And so I want to thank you guys for always being there for me and pushing me, because you, I believe, saw something in me as well. I want to thank the coaching staff, and as I was going through these coaches, and Mike Jamison has been brought up tonight, hell of a wrestling coach, and Rob Dennison was a great wrestling coach as well as Gonzo. Rob was also, I think, a defensive line coach on the football team. I want to thank him. Dave Chittenden was my position coach at tight end. I want to thank him. Richard Mariani was coaching back then, as well as Nathan Ham, John Lewis. Tim Hughes is here tonight. Thank you, Coach Hughes. John Ostrich, Ron Stoll. Congratulations to you tonight. Thanks for what you've done for me. And Brady Pryor. And still to this day, Brady's genuinely interested in my family and how well my daughter's doing. He's always asking me how she's progressing in sport. Coach, was it any surprise with all the Hall of Fame? I think that's 4 Hall of Fame coaches on your staff, and then yourself. Was it any surprise we were pretty damn good back then? I thank all you coaches for that. Last but not least, Coach Walton. You know, when you're young, you think he's just a football coach. He's teaching you how to play football. He did. He taught us how to play football. He ran high school practices and the program just like they do in college. So when I got to college, it was exactly how our high school practices were run. They didn't do that back then. I don't know that they do that today. Most of the kids I played with in college they looked like a fish out of water the first 4 or 5 months because they hadn't been used to that kind of coaching. But what he was really teaching is effort, resilience, overcoming adversity, confidence, punctuality. I think some of these terms have already been used tonight. Being prepared, whoever's the most prepared is going to have the best opportunity to win. Mental toughness. Teamwork. We had 22 seniors our senior year. That's unheard of. My daughter goes to a high school in California with 5,000 kids. So for comparison, I pulled up their roster, and they have 22 seniors on that staff. What do we have here, 1,800, 1,900 kids? We have 22, so I think that's unusual, but I think it was because young men gravitated towards Coach Walton and his staff. Last but not least, he taught us attitude, because without attitude, none of this other qualities would be possible. They found my father should have been teaching me. He did. But Coach Walton did. Enter the second father figure in my life. I had 3 goals as a senior. Number 1 was to get to Big Mama's house for the spaghetti dinner. I had a bellyache for a week after that night. I ate a lot of spaghetti, and I did not know it expanded in your stomach after you ate it. Number 2, goal was to get first team All-City, because I wanted to see my ugly mug in the Topeka Capital Tournament. I was fortunate enough to be in the Capital Journal, and I may still have that picture somewhere in a cedar chest. And number 3, my grandmother couldn't afford to put us through college, my brothers and I. So I needed a scholarship. Every scholarship I was offered outside of Washburn and Pittsburgh State were partial scholarships. D1s back then could divvy up the money, and it was things like, well, we'll pick up your books and maybe some room and board. My grandmother said, you better take the full ride or you're not going to college. And I ended up at Emporia State. And I went on to do pretty well at Emporia State. But I will tell you, the reason I believe that I was successful is because of the men in my life. And I appreciate it. I love you, Chuck. I love you, Coach Walton. Thank you.
I don't remember you, Jeff, as a curly-headed person. Old age has a way of taking care of curls. I just have to. The passion that you showed for your experiences here and for this Hall of Fame kind of makes a night like this worthwhile, and that's a great thing. Our final inductees are the 1999 boys golf team. They will be introduced by longtime golf coach and current AD, Rich Mariani.
I am the one in charge, and I am going to keep it under 5 minutes. Come on down here, you guys. I want to introduce them when they come down here. This group of golfers, it was an unbelievable group. Come on down here. Come on, Mark, Derek, Ryan, Eric. Awesome. This group was a tremendous group of golfers. They worked harder than any group I've ever had. And when these guys, they worked hard over the summer. They would get up in the morning. I think Derek would take them fishing. Then they'd go play golf. And then they'd finish fishing. And they'd do that all summer long. And then when we'd have, Ed Port was my assistant. When practice started, we practiced for 9 holes. And I knew my place when Mark we were on hole number 7 at Western Hills. It's a par 5 dogleg right. And Mark was behind a tree, and he goes, I said, the smart move here is just to punch it out, take your par, and move on. He said, no, coach. See that gap in those trees? I'm going right in that gap. I'll be darned, he hit it right in that gap, ended up birdieing a hole, and I was done coaching for the rest of the year. These kids, I didn't do anything. They did it all. They worked. When we got done with practice, I had 3 little ones at home. They stayed on the golf course because I knew they would play golf. And they did. They played golf until it got dark every night. When it was raining, I told them that was the best time to play golf because no one else would be out there but us, and we did. We practiced in the rain. We practiced when the wind was blowing off the lake, and they had no trouble at all playing golf in any kind of weather. I take this to the state tournament that year. We had our senior year. We had actually won city 3 years in a row. We had surprised everybody the first 2 years. We weren't supposed to be very good. And we ended up winning the city their sophomore and junior year. Their senior year, their worst finish during their senior year was 4th place. We were competing against the Shawnee Mission Easts, the St. Thomas Aquinas, the Lawrences. These kids went out, and every day it was somebody at a tournament that would step up and score. And it could have been any one of the 6, 7 that we had that day that would step up and score. We drove down to McPherson for the state practice round. Thank you, Joe, for letting us go. We had to turn around and come back because the golf course was underwater. They had we had gone down earlier in the week because I think we had graduation on Saturday. So we had gone down either Wednesday or Thursday and it was underwater. They actually had moved the state tournament to Tuesday, so we went down Monday and played a practice round. And that night I said, guys, you shoot under 300. And for those of you who know golf, you take your 6 kids and count your best 4 scores. Our best score, I think, that year was 303. And I said, we go under 300, we're going to have a good chance to win. Well, we were the public school champions that year. We finished 3rd. We lost to Cape and Mount Carmel, who needed a a sixth-man score to get into the state tournament, and then they shot, I think it was a state record until Sacred Heart last year broke that state record. And then St. Thomas Aquinas beat us. But these kids went out and shot 294, which was 296, which was the best score that I know of in Topeka West history. I think it's still a record for a team score as a 296. They were an outstanding group of individuals. They worked hard on their golf game, and it showed. We finished third in the state, and I can't be any prouder of this group of 7 young men, and now they're old men now. So I'm going to introduce them. John Dinkel was on the team. He's not here tonight. Eric Weisner. Eric Williams. Eric Goldmeyer. And Ryan Nelson. Again, got a great group of people. I think Ryan has some work that he wants to share with you all.
So I got charged with speaking tonight. I don't know if that's because I had the most contact with Coach Mariani or if, I think I kind of volunteered. I really want to thank Coach Mariani. He gave us all an opportunity. I want to thank, Topeka West. I know personally I had a great experience here. But I really want to thank these guys next to me because I don't think we would have became the group that we became if it wasn't for each other. I think day in and day out, what drove us more than anything else is that we didn't want to lose to each other. And I think that made us what we were able to do and allowed us to do what we were able to do. I know we spent hours and hours and hours at the golf course. I don't know if you guys remember back in the old days, Topeka Public, there was a girl that worked there named Rachel, and she'd come out and yell at us to get off the golf course because it was getting dark and she wanted to go home. And we're like, we got 2 holes left, it's not dark yet. And she was, get off, I want to go home. And so, that was a very regular thing for us to be out there every single day, playing, doing something, whether we were chipping and putting, hitting balls, playing holes. But I really, truly believe that we just love to beat each other, and we didn't want to lose to each other. And every single day, that's what I think drove us more than anything else. But when it came to the season, we loved to be with each other. I remember so many van rides, and we were the guys. When we did get to stay in a hotel as a group, and we had a tournament the next day, we were probably putting in the hotel, and we had to clean our golf clubs, and we'd have the bathtub full of water, and we're all cleaning our clubs. We all had these traditions. I think we're probably the last Topeka West golf team that didn't have Topeka West golf shirts because we were all so superstitious. We had our own stuff, and we didn't want to wear a Topeka West shirt because we had to. We all had our little superstitions that we had to do, and I know me personally, I didn't wear golf shoes my senior year. I played good once in a pair of tennis shoes and didn't wear golf shoes again, and I honestly haven't since. So I don't know what it was, but we all had those things. I do know we played better when Coach Mariani hit a curb or something in the van. That was quite frequent. I don't know if he's driving better today or if he still does that or not. I think maybe he needs to bring that back.
I did it on purpose.
So I remember that. I asked some of these guys what I should say, and a few of them said some things I probably shouldn't say, so I'm not going to. But I want to just thank everybody, and I know that this group made me a better golfer. I know that's what I loved to do when I was that age, and I didn't know any of these guys coming into high school. I know some of them, we had Mr. Gabar earlier tonight. I know a lot, I think there were at least 4 of them that were French Falcons. I went to Landon, so I didn't know any of these guys coming in, and I remember, I can only speak for myself. I remember trying out our freshman year, and I didn't know anybody on the golf team, and, for the most part, some of these guys have been lifelong friends of mine, and, we probably don't hit the golf links as much as we'd like anymore, but, you know, we loved our time, and I can't speak for them, but, you know, it truly made me who I am today, and, you know, we had a very great bonding experience, and, you know, we love to be around each other, and, you know, I think we helped each other more than anything else, so, thanks to everybody, and I think I made it under 5, hopefully, so we can everybody get out of here tonight, and thank you very much.
There are several common denominators among tonight's inductees as well as those who have preceded them. One, they have had tremendous parental support, or if not a parental, at least a mentor who has been present to give them a sense of direction and encouragement. I think we saw that tonight. How many times was Frank Walton mentioned? Talk about a mentor who improved lives and supported lives. He should go to sleep tonight with a smile on his face. Two, with very few exceptions, inductees have been academic stars as well as athletic achievers. And three, the contributions of the inductees to the communities in which they live have been enormous. So honoring them in this Hall of Fame is the least we can do. This concludes our 22nd Annual Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The word annual suggests there will be a 23rd. Believe me, we have many deserving candidates to be honored, as the selection committee well knows. Please continue your support of Topeka West and its athletic and activities endeavors, and we hope to see you again next year. And don't forget, this coming Sunday, the Alumni Hall of Fame induction and the Owen Hinson Distinguished Teacher Awards will be presented right here in this auditorium at 2 p.m. following the reception in the Leadership Studies Center at 1 p.m. Inductees will be the late Dr. Paul Payne, Mark Megabo, and Manuel Delavai. Distinguished teachers to be honored are Ken Tickner, Rome Mitchell, Randall Walker, and Paula Benson. Thank you for your attendance. Good night.